BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. Israeli forces have continued to strike Gaza at regular intervals during a second night without power in the Palestinian territory. Health officials say at least 45 people were killed when an airstrike brought down a block of flats in the district of Jabalia. Israel says it won't lift its blockade even for humanitarian deliveries unless Hamas fighters release all hostages. Ori Goldschmidt is a spokesperson for the Israeli embassy in the UK.
We are doing everything we can in order to target only Hamas. You know that we have at the moment Hamas terrorists that we are taking care of in the hospitals. We are going above and beyond our duties. But you know the problem, Hamas are hiding behind civilian dense populations. They are hiding their infrastructure behind hospitals, under schools, under mosques. They are cowards. They're using their own population as human shields.
More than 1,500 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes since Saturday. The United Nations has said it is gravely concerned for the 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza who are unable to access essential health services or even clean water. Neda Tawfiq has more details.
The UN has repeatedly underscored how dire the humanitarian situation is in Gaza. UNFPA says it is gravely concerned for the 50,000 pregnant women there who are unable to access essential health services or even water. 5,500 of those women are due to give birth in the coming month, and among fears for their safety are fears about psychological distress. One UNFPA staff member in Gaza said their only goal now is to breathe, to stay alive. The agency says it is pre-positioning supplies to be ready to deliver if the siege is lifted.
US media is reporting that a $6 billion deal between the United States and Iran has been frozen amid scrutiny over Iran's support for Hamas. The BBC's Barbara Platt-Usher has this report.
Administration officials have not confirmed or denied that the fund has been frozen. Some have indicated this is about politics, not facts. They emphasize that the account is strictly for things like food and medicine, and that the U.S. has strict oversight over how it's spent. Freezing the money would be a provocative move, especially as the administration is trying to prevent Iran and the militant groups that it backs from joining the Israel-Hamas conflict. Iran's mission to the United Nations said the U.S. government could not renege on the agreement and was acutely aware of that.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is embarking on the next stage of what's to be his most extensive Middle East tour since taking office. After his visit to Israel on Thursday, Mr. Blinken is travelling on to Jordan for meetings with King Abdullah and the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Mr. Blinken is then scheduled to fly on to Qatar. Live from London, you're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. A white police officer in the U.S. state of Colorado, Randy Ramadema, has been convicted for criminally negligent homicide over the death of a 23-year-old black man, Elijah McClain, in 2019. Police stalked him as he was walking home. They put him in a chokehold before paramedics then injected him with a sedative. India has rejected the latest global hunger index that ranks the country 111 out of 125 surveyed nations. With more details, here's Ambarasan Etharajan.
India's ranking has dropped by 4 places in this year's report, falling behind most South Asian countries except Afghanistan. The report is compiled by the Irish aid agency Concern Worldwide and German organization Welthunger-Hilfe. The index looks at undernourishment, the number of children under the age of 5 with low height and weight, and child mortality. India, the world's 5th biggest economy, has fallen into the serious category. But the Indian government says the sample size for the report was too small. The level of hunger in Nepal and Bangladesh has been placed in the moderate category.
A prominent Italian journalist has been found guilty of insulting the Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, and handed a symbolic fine. Roberto Saviano had called her a bastard because of her hardline views on immigration. His fine of €1,000 was much less than prosecutors wanted, and he'll only have to pay it if he repeats the offence. Mr. Saviano is best known for his book about the mafia, Gomorrah. And new research indicates that about 40% of Antarctica's ice shelves have shrunk over the past quarter of a century. The risk of rising sea levels is increased as these floating platforms of ice around Antarctica are reduced. The study said the melting went beyond the normal multi-year cycles of shrinking and regrowth. The European Space Agency, whose satellite images were used, has described the findings as alarming. BBC News.